Leanne, back at Glasgow City, just how does it feel to be back again at the club?
Yeah, really good. I felt like I was away probably for a lot longer than I was. I mean, 3.5 years in football, it does seem quite a bit of time, and an awful lot's happened in between times, both for myself personally and here at the club. When you look at how much change there's been both on and off the pitch, but it certainly does feel like home, so that's always a nice thing when you come back to somewhere. There's no guarantee that it's ever going to feel the way that it felt before, but thankfully, you know, settling in and had to quite quickly adapt to that. There was no pre-season and no time to really get up to speed when you're in the thick of it, and it's mid-season, so no, it's really nice to be back. I think the hype around the women's game and how much investment and change there's been in the last number of years, being in the outside looking in, I think we all probably expected at a point that Glasgow City might fall by the wayside, and that, you know, the big hitters would take over and sweep them away. Certainly that was how it felt when the run of 14 domestic titles came to an end. But the reality is, when you look at the club and how well ran it is, and I see it all the time, the people behind the scenes and the way they do things, and they've always done things, and looking after the people within the club, I think, is really important. And with that, the product on the pitch is always kind of spoke for itself. You know, top performers, top players. Yeah, the lure's always there. I think this time round, personally, it was a good fit. Just looking at where I'm at and my coaching journey, you know, being at Motherwell and that experience for 3.5 years, and as I mentioned, an awful lot's changed personally. So I think, you know, when Glasgow City come and ask the question, and they come knocking and they want you to be part of their club, then, you know, it would take a brave person to say no.
I'm back with Leanne Ross. How's that?
It's brilliant, it really is. We've spent an awful lot of time together as teammates. We were roommates at the national team for a number of years. I think the fact that, you know, we're namesakes as well, we come as this dynamic duo, and that's the way it's always been viewed. I think I came off a bit worse than that at times, because I've always seen her as a bit more hard hitting than me, but we bounce off each other really, really well, and it's a shame actually for the time that I had left Glasgow City, and we've both been in kind of separate journeys. Certainly she's been in the hot seat now, and with that as a thankless task, you don't have an awful lot of time to really catch up with friends, and our two journeys weren't quite aligning, albeit we've remained really close friends. But to be back here and alongside her is for me a massive privilege.
And I know you weren't here last season, but obviously no European football. The league title wasn't won either. But do you think that it was almost needed in an odd way, a reset at the club?
I think it's always good. You know, I think challenge is always good, and in the women's game in Scotland, it's something for a number of years we've looked at and we've wanted more of. You know, there was never enough, and even going back to my time at the club as a player, you know, it was Glasgow City, it was Hibs, it was one or the other. Cup finals, you would rarely find other sides that would really make it there. One-off games, yes, there would be a challenge, but we wanted more. We wanted teams to be competing at that top end, and we've eventually got that. So I think for Glasgow City, nobody's naive to think that you're ever going to have that same level of dominance that we were fortunate enough to have, but that was down to hard work and determination and forward planning and commitment from the club. At points that other teams weren't matching that. I think that match is there now. I think that investment is there. So the reset is probably, yes, it's good, it's refreshing. I think it reminds everybody where we're at, where we want to be. I think there's no worse feeling than being on the outside of it, looking in and watching another team celebrate at the end of the season. I used to hate when the cup final would be your last in memory before you then head into a break and you've lost that cup final. You know, one of the best years that we've ever had at City was that 2019 season when Claire Shine scored that late get into injury time winner that just sealed that season for us, and it just made the break and everything about the club. Like, that's what success is. But we welcome the challenge. Like, there's, you know, nobody's ever going to run away with it now. I think that's been pretty clear in the last number of years. It could come down to goal difference. It could be the 1 point that's the difference come the end of the season. So we looked at last season as an incentive to get back to doing what Glasgow City do, and so far this season we're on the right course. Now,
just how things are currently, top of the league, team to beat in Scotland at the moment, and since you've come in, a 3-0 win against your title rivals and Rangers here at Petershill, that must mean a lot, that game, especially for you as well, coming in and so early on in your Glasgow City coaching career.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a busy week. I came in and we went straight into that 3-game week, and we dropped points against Hearts midweek, which was a real frustration, which probably made the Rangers' performance and result even more significant, that you couldn't afford to drop any more points in that week. I don't think any side will go, you know, unbeaten or certainly win every game between now and the end of the season that goes on to win the league. I think that would be unrealistic. So you need to then, you know, play a bit of cat and mouse with trying to tally up those points. I think that day we didn't need any excuses, and the performance levels were there. And for me, it was the first taste of, yes, that type of fixture on the touchline, and certainly being part of it, which was a joy. When you come out on top, it always feels a lot better. But certainly there's going to be many more of them as the season goes. I think for me, it's every day when you come to your work trying to make a difference, and if that's only one player that you manage to have that moment with, or that difference maker, whether it's giving them your time or a bit of information or content, analysis, maybe just one part of the session really hits home with them, or actually just looking after them, you know, off the pitch and putting an arm around them and allowing them to understand that it's an open door policy, and you know the coaches are here to, yes, set demands and create a culture, but it's over to them to really drive it. So that for me is probably, you know, of course you want to win things, and when you're at a club like this, it's going to come down to silverware. I don't think come the end of the season folk will want me to be sitting harping on about how much of an impact I've been and we've not won anything. So you be realistic with that as well. But I think it's human beings, and you know we've got a lot of really young talented athletes within this group as well, and as I say, that's been a real joy to be part of that already, certainly in the short time that I've been here.